Welcome back to Decked Out Jon Boats. We're here with Nick Gordon. He's going to show us his tunnel haul. How deep was that water we just ran across?
That back there, a foot at
All right, Nick, what size is your boat?
This is a 1648 2009 Alumacraft Angler. As you will see, it's certainly been modified a lot. It has some custom decking and hatches from Decked Out Jon Boats. But if we want to go back here and take a look at the tunnel that we have back here. This is one of the biggest modifications here. It was just a regular transom and everything. When I got the boat, barely had any of the decking or anything. Pretty much a completely bare boat, small front and rear deck. Recently I had the transom built up and a tunnel hull cut into the bottom here. For those of you that are familiar with a jet outboard, they normally would sit, you know, with the foot slightly below the bottom of the boat, and the water would run and feed into the jet pump. With a tunnel hull, you can now bring your motor up higher, which then keeps that foot up flush with the bottom of the boat. So the lowest point at all times is pretty much the bottom of the boat, with the foot being at the, you know, the completely back end, which allows you to run a lot shallower than, you know, with a standard setup, which I've certainly noticed a lot before. You know, I've ran some sections where, you know, normally I'd clip the bottom of my foot, and now with the tunnel hull, I don't even have to worry about it whatsoever. I also have an upgraded UHMW intake foot. It's basically like a composite type material. That way, if I do end up coming in contact with something, opposed to actually grabbing it like the standard aluminum foot would, it'll more skip off. Or if I have a really extreme impact, that something actually comes up and grabs this foot, like God forbid a piece of rebar or something that's in the water or something, it'll rip this foot off, opposed to cracking the whole pump housing, which is more of an expensive fix than, you know, just having to replace the foot or messing something up with the entire, you know, motor itself. So all this was definitely a great upgrade to the boat. The pods were put on.
Is that something, the pods or something you added?
Yeah, I added the pods on there. That the boat did not have them. Just welded them right onto the back.
And we checked today, they are airtight.
Yeah, they are airtight. There's no water getting in there. There's some drain plugs on there just in case if you were to have water or some moisture buildup in there, but we popped those out today, and there's actually air pressure in there, so we're airtight.
Now your motor, what size is that? When you kick it off from here. Thinking on the way over here, this is the first time I've been in a boat that wasn't electric only in years. Now your motor, what size is that?
This is a 5035 Mercury jet outboard. With the jet, with standard for jet outboards, you have your head unit, which this one's at 50 horsepower. But when you have a jet pump as opposed to a standard unit with a prop, you lose some horsepower, and it's a completely different type of thrust than with a prop. So you lose a little bit of horsepower. So at the pump, you're actually pushing approximately 35 horsepower out. But even that, comparing like 35 horsepower of jet thrust to 35 horsepower of a standard prop is going to be a lot different too. If I put like a 35 prop on here, this boat would move faster. But, you know, as we know, the big advantages and the reasons why I have the jet on here is to run shallow.
So what kind of speeds do you see with this boat motor setup?
So for this boat and everything all decked out, you know, I'll have some ice and drinks and all my fishing gear and maybe another cooler in there and a seat. Right now, after getting the transom and everything raised up, which did affect the speed a little bit, I'm running about 22 to 24. Sometimes I'll see 26 going downriver with the current pushing the boat a little bit faster. But that's what I'm seeing right now. Before the tunnel, because the motor was down lower and you did have more of that thrust down into the water, I was seeing more of an average of 24, 26, but now I'm like around the 22 to 24. But also, I'm going shallower now, just a little bit shallower, so I'll take that to be able to get to some spots that I'm not normally getting to, or hitting things that I normally might end up worrying about hitting.
So as far as the layout of the boat, is this something you kind of played around with, or is this pretty standard for a jet?
When I first got this boat, you can even probably go and look them up from Illumicraft, their old manuals. This deck only came to about right here in the rear, which then I ended up extending out. There was no, I just call these like little catwalks. These weren't here at all. There was nothing here. I built these out just so I had a little bit of a way to either just like a ledge to sit or step on and walk from back to front without stepping down in here, which I usually would have like some tackle or something down in here, or a cooler. Extended out. The front deck came to about right in line here. That's why I ended up putting the console here in the first place. So I had the console in and everything before I extended the decking, or added some more decking. So I ended up adding in some sections here on both sides of the console. This boat did have carpet initially, which I ended up ripping all out. It sucks, but I definitely 100% recommend getting rid of carpet and putting in something like a C-deck or any other comparable product. With this, my boat sits outside. Unfortunately, I don't have indoor storage for it, so I don't have to worry about it raining the night before and my boat being a soaking wet mop basically that I'm sitting on, or you're catching a lot of fish, you got slime on the boat, or if you get some blood on the boat. I do a little bit of bow fishing and stuff like that, so there will be blood and whatnot that gets on here. This stuff's really easy to clean. It doesn't soak stuff up, so you don't have to worry about your boat being wet, smelly, and all that. It's also a lot cooler too, especially for walking on it. Like today was a nice hot summer day. It gets pretty hot out there, and walking on the sea deck, you don't have to worry about burning your feet up or anything. So that's nice. Definitely would recommend that. I also added in all these hatches. When I initially added in all the decking, I only really had the one hatch in the rear where my fuel cell is, and then there was a hatch here prior to me putting this hatch in, which is from Decked Out Jon Boats, and all the other hatches are from Decked Out Jon Boats. They're freaking great. I mean, I stand on them. I put them through a lot of abuse because I stand on them a lot. Not as much up front. I do stand on this larger hatch here, and I will stand on these, but whoever's fishing in the back here is standing on this hatch a lot, and I've had this one in here for I think about 2 years, but that's about it. Jumping up and down on this thing, slamming it. It's been put through the test, and they work out great. You can get them to whatever size you need. There's a lot of sizes that they have already, but you can also do some custom sizes for whatever you may need. And they're easy to install. You can install them a couple different ways. I installed mine over top of the decking because I already had the C-deck in. So I ended up marking out, cutting through, and just inserted them right in over top. But if you are looking and have a build that you're working on, I would maybe think a little bit more ahead of time before you really start putting things together, because I sort of started with one thing that led to another, which then things didn't come together as perfect as they could have, but still turned out to be a pretty decent boat.
All right, well, you want to walk us through your hatches and tell us what you got under the deck?
So this hatch here, which I just recently, well, actually let's start back here. This was already with the boat. I actually might consider putting a different hatch here, but this one was just pre-built in with the boat, came as is. This is where I have my fuel cell back here, bilge pump, and a lot of you know, control cables and everything running back through here, because this is where the outboard's mounted. And then up here under this hatch I have a cooler that luckily fit the size that I installed in right in here. So I have an internal cooler in the boat, which also could be retrofitted to be like a live well. It's not that, you know, not that big that you would really ideally want, you know, for a 5-fish tournament. But if you're fishing like a smaller tournament with some buddies, or a smaller league, night league, whatever, and a couple 3-fish tournament, I could turn it into a live well if I needed to. But it's nice to have it as a cooler in there to eliminate having 2 coolers on my boat. And just in case, you know, you have your one cooler for your food and drinks, and then another one for if you're going to keep some fish. Now I have one already in the boat, which, and if I'm not using it as a cooler, I can just use that as some dry storage for whatever I need to put in there, tackle, whatever it may be. That's that hatch back there.
Now I do see that you have some speakers down there.
Yes, I do.
Are those Bluetooth, or how do they?
I got 4 kicker speakers back there that are hooked up to Bluetooth. Those are really nice if you're just going out to hang out on the water for a while. Some people might like to play music while they're fishing. I will every once in a while, but a lot of times I'm pretty serious, so I'm not playing music all the time. But if you're just going out to hang out on the water, it's nice to have their speakers. They're nice and hidden back there. I got the Bluetooth. I could play a radio station if I wanted to, but I'll hook up to them and just play some music. I'm out on the water relaxing.
So how about your, what kind of gauges you got here?
So, not everything here has a full function yet. I got a couple switches in here for whatever I may add on. But this one here gives me my voltage for the battery. The individual lithium battery I have down in here. Got some line in the way here, but this battery here is for turning the motor over, starting up, and any auxiliary things, the speaker, my fish finding unit, my humminbird, any of my lighting, all runs off this one Rely-on lithium battery, 12 volt in here. So that just gives me my voltage on the battery there. Also gives me a USB so I can charge my phone or whatever other device you may have that runs off of USB cords and can plug in here. This one I haven't hooked up yet. Probably gonna hook it up for the trolling motor. Not 100% yet. A couple of these switches here are for some LED light strips that I have in, you know, under the sides here, which you can see. I got some light bars on because I am out at night sometimes, just so I have light so I can find my way back. Bilge pump, navigation lights, and light pods in the front. Got a humminbird helix 10 up here, fish finder unit, steering, another light bar, throttle control and everything. And then up here, I have my largest hatch, which is very sturdy, by the way. It is a very big opening on the boat, but these hatches from Decked Out Jon Boats are very nice. There's some added support in here for, you know, this very large hatch, and it's like standing on a rock. I mean, it doesn't bend in or bow whatsoever when you're standing on top of it. And in here I have my 2 12 volt lithium batteries from Rely-on that I have hooked up to my Minn Kota Ultrex on the front here, 24 volt. And then I just have some other odds and ends here, anchor, extra prop for the trolling motor because I fish a lot of shallow water, never know if you're going to bust it off. So I got an extra one, some ropes, some extra drain plugs, pliers, a knife, stern light, PFDs, and whatever else I want to put in here. Sometimes I'll put some tackle or whatever I may need out on the water for whatever I'm doing that particular day. And we come up here, I got 2 smaller little hatches here, which these are probably my favorite, believe it or not. I do a lot of shallow water fishing on the Upper Potomac River, so I use a lot of smaller soft plastics, and these 2 hatches here are perfect for that. I have a couple bags, not in on this side necessarily, but a couple small boxes, and my leader material. I have a little bracket here to hold a couple spinner baits, small chatter baits. Got a scale in here, hand controller for my Ultrex, some pliers and other odds and ends in here. Other side I got some soft plastics and you know, just some jig heads and whatnot in there. So there's small little hatches are perfect for that.
So I see two plug ups for trolling motors up there. Is one for the charger?
This one actually this is just like, this one was already here. This is actually a piece that was already with the boat when I bought it. It was actually all the way up front. So I added this panel up here to mount the trolling motor to. From the factory, the front of the boat just came to a point here. This little box here, which has all the wiring in, which was great because I already had wiring up here in the front of the boat for the trolling motor that ran to the back, which then I ended up pulling back through to the console where I located it. A couple other smaller wires coming through there for whatever accessories, which I ended up using for my lights. So this plug actually doesn't do anything at all. This other one here is for power to the Ultrex here. Which you see, I got the recessed foot control plate here, which is amazing. Helps relieve a little bit of that stress on your back or your legs when you're running the trolling motor all day. You don't have to be, sort of stepping up with one foot. You're more down, more flush with your stance, which is great. Got the Ultrex mounted up here on this front aluminum plate that I put in. This works out great. This is not your a standard Ultrex. I actually took it and cut it down a foot. This is the shortest one that you can get. I can't remember if it's like 45 inches is the shortest one that you can get from the factory. For me, that was just way too long. I mean, even this, you can see that I will bring it up, I don't know, another 10 inches or so and still have, it in plenty of water to run. But I cut it down a foot, to take some of that extra trolling motor out of the way, because it would be sticking out, out past the boat up here and hit my guides on my trailer and I'd be launching in. But also the main thing was it's sticking up out of the water when I'm fishing and casting. It'd be in the way from hitting it, so I cut that down a foot so the trolling motor head unit is down as far as possible when I'm fishing. Keep it out of the way, keep those casts running smooth. Something you may notice is this is not a standard paint job on a boat. It's actually not a paint at all. This is a vinyl wrap that I had installed by a company near me, and they work out great. If there's anybody out there looking to paint a boat, I would completely steer away, not even think about it whatsoever. I'd find somebody that does vinyl and does any sort of vinyl wrapping. And they hold up really well if you get the proper wrap, a higher quality wrap. There's marine grade wraps, and a couple other details that guys will do for boats particularly. This is a cryptic pattern black. It's held up really good, and I put my boat through hell. Going through a lot of shallow water, pulling up on rocks up on the bank, going through over top of trees and stuff and branches, and pulling up in mud and everything, scraping it all up, and it has yet to come off. I mean, it's peeled in some spots where things have cut through it, which is to be expected, but that's on me. But it's held up pretty well and looks pretty cool, and a great alternative that you don't have to worry about, maintenance wise, like with paint, nice shiny paint that you just get one little scratch on and you have to go in and get it filled in. With this, you can beat the hell out of it, and you can change the color like that if you want to. They'll just peel it off and put new on.
Well, Nick, I appreciate you getting me out of the water,
yeah, no
and I
problem.
appreciate you showing me the boat.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Definitely one that's decked out.
Yeah, for sure.